They called her the Beast of the 42nd floor. Not because she was strong, not because she was dangerous, but because they thought looking at her ruined their expensive view. The exact moment Alara stopped being human to them was Tuesday, 3:47 p.m. Marketing intern Yuna held her phone steady while Director Choi poured his iced Americano over Alara's head. "Even the coffee can't make you hot," he laughed. 3 million views in 6 hours. She didn't cry. Beasts don't cry. But that night, in a rain-soaked alleyway reeking of blood and garbage, she found a dying man in a suit worth more than her yearly salary. His eyes were cold, empty, beautiful. "Save me," he whispered, "and I'll give you anything." She didn't ask for money. She asked him to teach her how to make them bleed without touching them. He smiled through the blood on his lips. 7 days. The man's name was Junesio, and he was the last person anyone should ever save. If you're obsessed with brutal makeovers, underdogs who become apex predators, and stories where pain becomes power and weakness becomes weaponized, you're exactly where you need to be. Hit that subscribe button because we've got more intense transformations coming your way, cold-blooded fixers with hidden agendas, survivors who stop surviving and start conquering all the psychological warfare and empire building you crave. Smash that like button and drop a comment telling me, what's your current vibe right now, and where in the world are you watching from? Are you at work pretending to be productive, lying in bed when you should be sleeping, or maybe plotting your own glow-up on your commute? Where are my revenge arc lovers tuning in from today? I love knowing where you all are and what transformations you're manifesting. The mop bucket tipped over at 3:43 p.m., 4 minutes before Alara's life ended for the first time. Dirty water spread across the polished marble of the 42nd floor executive lounge like a stain on white silk. She lunged for it, but her knee caught the edge, sending her sprawling. Laughter erupted from the leather sofas where the marketing team lounged, their designer shoes safely elevated. The beast strikes again. Yuna's voice carried that particular pitch of cruelty that came so naturally to beautiful people. Alara's hands trembled as she reached for the mop. Just get through it. Just survive. The mantra that had carried her through 3 years of this hell. Wait. Director Choi stood, his $1,000 loafers clicking against marble. He held his iced Americano like a weapon. "I think she needs help cooling down. She's so hot and bothered." The phone came out. Yuna's manicured fingers steadied the frame. Time crystallized. Alara saw it all. The smirks, the eager phones, the way they'd position themselves for optimal lighting. This wasn't spontaneous cruelty. This was choreographed. The coffee was cold. It soaked through her uniform, dripped from her hair, ran mascara down her cheeks like war paint. "Even coffee can't make you hot," Choi announced to his audience of millions yet to come. Something inside Alara didn't break. It calcified, hardened, turned to stone. She finished her shift, clocked out at 11 p.m., walked into the rain without an umbrella, because what was the point of staying dry when you were already drowning? The alleyway behind Gangnam Tower wasn't on her usual route home, but her feet carried her there anyway, drawn by some magnetic pull of fate or destruction. That's where she found him. A man in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car, slumped against a dumpster, blood blooming across his white shirt like poppies in snow. His face was sharp, elegant, untouched by the violence that had clearly found his torso. His eyes opened, dark, cold, empty of everything except a predator's calculation. "Help me," he whispered, "and you can have anything." Alara knelt in the dirty water, in the blood, in the filth of the alley. She knew what she wanted. "Make me unbreakable." Junesio's penthouse smelled like money and danger. Leather, whiskey, and something metallic Ilara couldn't quite place. Blood, maybe. Or fear. She called the ambulance. Waited until the expensive SUVs arrived instead, filled with men who looked at her like an inconvenient witness. Junesio had stopped them with one raised finger, his voice steady despite the bullet wound. She comes with me. Now she sat on a velvet sofa, worth more than her entire apartment, watching a doctor in Prada stitch up Seoul's most notorious fixer, while he studied her with those dead, beautiful eyes. You want to be unbreakable, he said finally, waving away the doctor. Why not rich? Why not beautiful? Why not ask me to kill them? Because Ilara's voice cracked. She forced it steady. Because money can be stolen. Beauty fades. And if you kill them, they become victims. I want them to know what they did. I want them to feel it. Something flickered across Junesio's face. Almost respect. 7 days, he said, pulling out his phone despite his injuries. He showed her the video. Her humiliation, already at 5 million views. Comments calling her pig, cow, monster. In 7 days, there's a gala. The company's biggest night. Everyone will be there. I don't have an invitation. You will. His smile was a knife. But first, you need to understand something. Being unbreakable isn't about what they can't do to you. It's about what you're willing to do to them. He stood, walked to the window overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. I can change how you look. Train how you move. Teach you how to find every weakness, every secret, every pressure point that makes powerful people crumble. But the real question is, he turned back to her. Are you willing to become the thing they should have feared all along? Ilara thought about the coffee, the laughter, the 3 million people who'd watched her degradation like entertainment. What do I have to do? Tomorrow, 5 a.m. Where's something you don't mind burning? Junesio's eyes held hers. Because the girl who walked into this room tonight, she dies tomorrow, and something else is born. Ilara stood, extended her hand. 7 days. His handshake was cold, firm, and felt exactly like making a deal with the devil. She'd never been more certain of anything in her life. The gym opened at 4 a.m. for people who didn't exist in daylight. Ilara arrived in her baggiest sweats, the armor she'd worn for 3 years. Junesio stood in the center of the empty space, impeccable despite last night's bullet wound, flanked by a woman whose arms looked like they could break steel. Strip, he said. Excuse me? The clothes. Everything that hides you. Off. Ilara's hands shook. I can't. You will. Junesio's voice was ice. You've been apologizing for existing for so long, you've forgotten what you actually look like. So has everyone else. The woman, Minji, she introduced herself with a nod, pulled out scissors. Not a request. A command. 20 minutes later, Ilara stood in fitted athletic wear, her oversized hoodie and glasses in a trash bag. The gym's mirrored wall reflected someone she didn't recognize. Not because she looked different, but because she could finally see herself. You're not fat, Junesio said clinically. You're untrained. There's a difference. Fat is their word. Weak is their word. You're going to learn new vocabulary. The training started. Burpees until her lungs burned. Boxing until her knuckles bled. Minji was merciless, elegant, a dancing blade of a woman who moved like violence was poetry. Pain is information, Minji said as Ilara collapsed for the 3rd time. Your body is telling you where you end. Push past it, and you expand. That's power. Day 2, Junesio brought files. Choi Min-ho, director of marketing. Gambling addiction, hidden from his wife. 70 million won in debt to the wrong people. He slid the folder across the table where Ilara sat, muscles screaming. Una Park. 3 plagiarism complaints swept under the rug by her uncle on the board. Creative director, She can't create anything original. Ilara stared at the information like it was a foreign language. This is ammunition. Jun Seo leaned forward. You think they're better than you. Smarter. More deserving. But look at them. Really look. They're not superior. They're just better at hiding their rot. He pulled out a mirror, held it in front of her sweat-soaked face. Now look at you. You saved a stranger's life without hesitation. You work harder than any of them. You're brilliant enough to have coded half their systems under a janitor's wage. His eyes met hers in the reflection. The only person who ever believed you were worthless was you. Ilara stared at herself. For the first time in 3 years, she didn't look away. They think you're stupid because you're quiet, Jun Seo said, spreading files across his dining table like battle plans. That's their first mistake. Day 3 began with a test. He handed Ilara a laptop and a name. Sarah Kim, mid-level accountant at her company. You have 2 hours. Find everything. Ilara's fingers flew across the keyboard. Her degree in computer science, earned through night school while scrubbing toilets, had been called fake by HR when they demoted her to janitorial. But the skills were real. Social media, cross-referenced financial records, public databases, dating apps, shopping patterns. Sarah Kim, 34, having an affair with the CFO. She's embezzling to fund their weekend trips to Jeju Island. The CFO's wife is a prosecutor. Jun Seo smiled like a wolf. 90 minutes. I'm impressed. You knew already. Of course. But I needed you to know. He opened a bottle of wine worth more than her monthly salary. Intelligence isn't what degrees you have. It's what you can do with information. And you, Ilara, are a weapon they've been standing next to without realizing it could fire. Day 4 brought a new teacher, a man named Taesung, silver-haired, elegant, who taught negotiation at Seoul's most expensive business school. Silence is power, he explained, walking circles around where Ilara sat. When Choi poured that coffee, what did you do? Nothing. Wrong. You apologized with your body, your hunched shoulders, your downcast eyes. You confirmed their narrative. He snapped his fingers. Again. I'm Choi. I insult you. React. Ilara straightened her spine. Minji's training already changing her posture. Met his eyes. Said nothing. Better. But your hands are trembling. They practiced for hours. Insults, provocations, the kind of casual cruelty she'd endured for years. Each time, she remained still, silent, unbothered. The person who speaks first loses, Taesung explained. The person who shows emotion loses. You want to break them? Watch them perform their cruelty to an empty stage. Watch them realize their power over you was always an illusion, you maintained. That evening, Jun Seo reviewed her progress while examining intelligence photos of the company gala. In 3 days, you enter that room. Not as a victim. Not as a victor. But as something they have no framework to understand. He looked at her with those predator eyes. A monster of their own creation, finally awake. Ilara smiled. It didn't reach her eyes anymore. She was learning. There's a cafe on Gangnam Boulevard, Jun Seo said on the morning of day 5. Yuna goes there every day at 2 p.m. You're going to join her. Ilara's stomach dropped. I'm not ready. You are. He adjusted the collar of her new shirt, simple, well-fitted, nothing like her old uniform. This isn't about confrontation. It's about observation. You're going to sit near her, order a coffee, and exist. That's all. That's all. Ilara's laugh was bitter. For someone who spent 3 years making herself invisible, yes, that's everything. Minji handed her a small earpiece. We'll be listening. You're not alone. The cafe was exactly as she remembered from Instagram posts she'd hate-scrolled through at 2 a.m. Industrial chic, overpriced matcha, the kind of place where being seen mattered more than the coffee. Yuna sat in her usual corner, phone propped up for content, her laugh cutting through ambient music like glass. Ilara's hands trembled as she entered. "Breathe," Junesio's voice in her ear. "You belong here as much as she does." She ordered an Americano. The barista didn't recognize her. New hair, new clothes, or maybe she just never bothered to see her before. Ilara took a seat 2 tables away from Yuna and waited. It took 7 minutes. Yuna glanced up from her phone, eyes skimming over Ilara. Then, nothing. No recognition. No mockery. Just indifference. "She doesn't see you," Junesio murmured. "Without your old costume, you're invisible again. But this time, by choice." Yuna's conversation carried across the space, complaining about her workload. Work Ilara knew was actually done by an overworked intern. Bragging about her creative vision, concepts Ilara recognized from a design blog Yuna had plagiarized. Every word was a performance. Desperate. Hollow. For the first time, Ilara saw it. The insecurity beneath the cruelty. The way Yuna checked her likes every 30 seconds. The fake laugh when her friend's story got more engagement. "She's terrified," Ilara whispered. "They all are," Junesio confirmed. "That's why they need you to be beneath them. It's the only way they can feel above anything." Ilara finished her coffee, stood, walked past Yuna's table close enough that their shadows touched. Yuna never looked up, but Ilara felt it, the shift. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was choosing not to be seen. There was a difference. Power. "Perfect," Junesio said as she exited into Seoul's golden afternoon light. "Tomorrow, we make you unforgettable." Subscribe to the channel right now, so you never miss a single second of this cinematic journey. The story is moving fast, and you'll want to be here when the final reckoning hits. The salon occupied an entire floor of a building Ilara had never dared enter. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Han River, and every surface gleamed with the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. "This is Madame Chun," Junesio introduced, an elegant woman whose age was impossible to determine. "She's transformed CEOs, celebrities, and one very memorable politician's mistress into his wife's replacement." "You have excellent bone structure," Madame Chun said, circling Ilara like a sculptor examining marble. "But you've been hiding it. Why?" "Because," Ilara started. Rhetorical question. "I know why. They told you to." Madame Chen's smile was sharp. "We're going to teach you something important. Beauty is a weapon, but confidence is the trigger. You can have one without the other, but together—" She snapped her fingers. Devastating. The transformation took 12 hours. Skincare specialists treated years of stress and neglect. A dermatologist eliminated the acne scarring Choi had once called crater face in a company-wide email. Hair colorists and stylists worked in shifts, discovering that beneath the damage was thick, healthy hair that had never been properly cut. "Don't make her look different," Junesio instructed. "Make her look like herself, but without the apology." Day 6, they brought in a stylist named Ji-won, whose clients included K-drama actresses and Chaebol's daughters. "Fashion isn't about trends," Ji-won explained, draping fabrics across Ilara's shoulders. "It's about armor. What do you want people to feel when they see you?" "Fear," Ilara said without hesitation. Ji-won grinned. "Now we're talking." The evening gown was midnight blue, the color of bruises, of deep water, of Seoul's sky before dawn. It was elegant, expensive, and cut to emphasize the body Minji's training had sculpted. But the real change was in the mirror. Ilara stood differently now. Shoulders back, chin up, the posture of someone who expected the world to move for her, not the other way around. "You're beautiful," Minji said softly. "You always were. But now you believe it." Jun Seo appeared in the doorway, expression unreadable. He studied her for a long moment. "Tomorrow night, you walk into that gala. They'll look at you and try to place you. Wonder if you're someone important they've forgotten." He stepped closer. "Let them wonder. Let them scramble. And when you're ready," his smile was ice and promise, "remind them exactly who you are." Ilera met his eyes in the mirror. The girl who'd scrubbed floors was gone. Something sharper had taken her place. Ilera found the file by accident. Day 6, late evening. Jun Seo was on a call in his office, voice low and dangerous in a language she didn't speak. She'd been reviewing her notes on the gala attendees when her laptop, Jun Seo's laptop, actually auto-synced to a shared drive. A folder labeled Project Ilera sat in the downloads. Her hands hovered over the trackpad. "Don't. This is a violation of trust." But when had trust ever protected her? She clicked. The first document was her employee file from the tech company. Every performance review she'd never seen. Notes from HR about her attitude problems, code for not smiling enough while being degraded. But there was more. An email chain between the CEO's son, David Park, and Director Choi. "The janitor is flagging security vulnerabilities in our code. She needs to go before she sees too much. Make her life hell until she quits." The coffee incident, the videos, the systematic destruction of her reputation. It hadn't been random cruelty. It had been calculated elimination. She scrolled further. A background check on her. Deep. Illegal. Her coding portfolio from university. Her test scores. A note in Jun Seo's handwriting. Genius-level IQ. Self-taught security specialist. Perfect. Then a dossier on David Park, CEO's son. Jun Seo's rival in some territorial war she didn't understand. And a final document, recruitment strategy. The door opened. Jun Seo stood in the doorway, still as death. "You weren't supposed to find that yet." Yet. Ilera's voice was steady. Cold. She'd learned from him, after all. "So, you were planning to tell me, I'm not a charity case, I'm an asset?" "You're both." He crossed the room, no apology in his movements. "David Park has been laundering money through your company's systems for 2 years. He's smart enough to hide it from auditors, but not from someone who actually understands the code. You do. So this whole week was real," Jun Seo interrupted. "Every lesson, every moment. You wanted to be unbreakable. I'm making you unbreakable. You wanted revenge. I'm handing you the keys to burn down the entire kingdom." He leaned against the desk. "But yes, I also need what's in your head." Ilera stood, walked to the window. Soul glittered below, like broken glass. "What happens after the gala?" "That depends. You can walk away, go back to your life with your new face and new confidence. Find a better job. Disappear." His reflection appeared beside hers in the glass. "Or you can stay. Work with me. Use that brilliant mind for something bigger than fixing their broken code while they mock you." "What's the catch?" "The catch is you'll never be innocent again. The things I'll teach you, the world you'll enter, there's no going back." Ilera thought about the email. Make her life hell until she quits. She turned to face him. "I stopped being innocent the day they poured that coffee. At least this way, I choose the monster I become." Jun Seo's smile was genuine for the first time since she'd met him. "Then let's go to war." The Grand Hyatt Seoul Ballroom looked like heaven designed by people who'd never seen it. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, Seoul's elite in their masks and designer gowns, playing at mystery while everyone knew exactly who they were. Ilera watched from the entrance, her midnight blue gown catching light like water catches stars. "You ready?" Junesio's voice in her earpiece. He was somewhere in the shadows. Insurance, he'd called it. "No," she whispered. "But I'm going anyway." Her invitation declared her as representing K Capital Investments, the mysterious new majority stakeholder who'd quietly purchased 30% of the company last week. Junesio's doing, naturally. Money, he'd explained, was borrowed from David Park's own laundering operation. Poetic justice, he'd said. She stepped inside. The reaction was immediate. Heads turned. Conversations paused. The physics of social power shifted as people tried to place her. Was she an actress? A Chabel's daughter? Someone important they'd somehow forgotten? Ilara moved through the crowd like water, Minji's training evident in every step. She accepted champagne she didn't drink, smiled mysteriously when asked her name. Later, she'd say, "I prefer to maintain some mystery." She found Yuna first. The marketing intern wore red, too bright, trying too hard, and her laugh was the same glass-cutting sound from the cafe. "And I swear, the janitor actually thought she could suggest improvements to my campaign," Yuna was telling a circle of executives. "Can you imagine? Like I'd take advice from someone smarter than you?" Ilara's voice cut through the laughter. The circle turned. Yuna's eyes widened, narrowed, trying to place the familiar voice in this unfamiliar face. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" "You should." Ilara smiled. No warmth. "You spent 3 years studying me, recording me, making me famous." She pulled out her phone, opened a file. "Though your uncle might be less interested in your creativity if he knew about these plagiarism complaints you paid a junior designer to take the fall for." Yuna's face drained of color. "How did you? Or maybe we should discuss your real metrics. The bot followers? The engagement pods? The fact that your last viral campaign was actually created by an intern you forced to sign an NDA? Who the hell are you?" Ilara leaned in close, whispered, "I'm the beast from the 42nd floor. Remember? You made sure 3 million people couldn't forget. Recognition. Horror. Beautiful, perfect horror. Ilara." The name rippled through the crowd like a grenade. Director Choi appeared, champagne in hand, confident smile, already cracking at the edges. He started to speak. Ilara held up one finger. "Silence. Tomorrow morning, the board receives a full audit of your department's expenses, including the 70 million won in company funds you've been funneling to pay gambling debts." She took his champagne, set it down. "You're finished, Director Choi. You just don't know it yet." She turned to the crowd, found the CEO's son, David Park, watching from across the room with calculating eyes. "Saved the best for last. Shall we discuss your real business ventures, Mr. Park? I have such interesting files to share." Junesio's voice in her ear. "Perfect. Now burn it all down." Ilara smiled. The beast had finally learned to bite. David Park didn't run. That was his first mistake. He crossed the ballroom floor with the confidence of a man who'd never faced real consequences, his mask, a golden lion, catching the chandelier light. The crowd parted for him automatically, years of corporate hierarchy coded into their bodies. "Miss." He extended his hand, playing the gracious host. "You know exactly who I am, Mr. Park." Ilara ignored his hand. "Just like you knew who I was when you ordered Director Choi to make my life hell." The ballroom held its breath. "I'm afraid there's been some misunderstanding," David said smoothly. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately." "Why? You weren't concerned with my privacy when you had me recorded and humiliated." Ilara pulled out a tablet, Junesio's gift for tonight. "But let's talk about privacy. Specifically, the 200 million one you've been moving through shell companies in the Cayman Islands." David's smile never wavered, but something cold flickered behind his eyes. Careful. Defamation is a serious crime. So is money laundering. Ilara swiped through screens, projecting them onto the ballroom's main display. Account numbers, transfer records, the intricate web of financial crime she'd spent day 6 unraveling. You've been using our company's payment processing system as your personal washing machine. And when I started flagging security issues that might expose you, she turned to face the crowd. You decided it was easier to destroy me than fix your crimes. The room erupted. Phones came out, not to mock her this time, but to record David. The CEO, David's father, pushed through the crowd, face purple with rage and humiliation. You used my company, the old man snarled at his son. You stupid, arrogant. Father, she's lying. She has bank records. Junesio's voice came from the shadows as he finally stepped into the light, immaculate in a black suit. Timestamps. Digital signatures. Everything prosecutors need. He smiled at David. Hello, cousin. The word detonated in Ilara's chest. Cousin? Junesio crossed to her side, his hand settling on her lower back with possessive familiarity. Did I forget to mention? The Park family has always had a complicated relationship. David's father runs the legitimate business. My side of the family handles everything else. And David here has been skimming from both. You son of a bitch, David hissed. This was never about her. You used her to get to me. I used her. Junesio laughed, cold and sharp. You're the one who tried to bury genius because it threatened your mediocrity. He turned to Ilara, something unreadable in his eyes. I just gave her the tools to dig herself out. What she built with them, that was all her. Ilara's mind raced, the pieces rearranging themselves. Junesio wasn't some random fixer. He was Park family. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about succession. Power. A corporate war dressed up as salvation. Security, the CEO called. Escort my son out. The board will be meeting in the morning. As guards moved toward David, he locked eyes with Ilara. You think you've won? You're a pawn in a game you don't understand. When Junesio's done with you, I'd be more worried about prison, Ilara said softly. I hear it's terrible for your complexion. The crowd laughed. Actually laughed. With her, not at her. David was dragged away, still shouting threats that dissolved into the night. Yuna and Choi had already vanished, rats fleeing a sinking ship. The other executives who'd tormented her suddenly found urgent reasons to leave, phones pressed to their ears, calling lawyers. The CEO approached Ilara, his expression complicated. Miss Kong, I apologize for what happened to you under my roof. Your apology means nothing, Ilara said, but your signature on a check for wrongful termination might. Name your price. I'll have my lawyer send the number. She turned away, then paused. Actually, I don't want money. I want a seat. A seat. On the board. As the representative for K Capital Investments. After all, we own 30% of your company now. She smiled. I think I've earned the right to a better view than the 42nd floor janitor's closet. The CEO looked at Junesio, who shrugged with elegant indifference. She speaks for us. Then, welcome to the board, Miss Kong. Ilara nodded and walked toward the exit, Junesio falling into step beside her. The crowd parted again, but this time with deference. Respect. Fear. Outside, the night air was sharp and clean. Souls stretched below them, alive and glittering with possibility. Cousin, Ilara said quietly. It's complicated. Uncomplicated. Junesio lit a cigarette, offered her one. She declined. The Park Empire was built by my grandfather. When he died, the legitimate business went to his eldest son, David's father. The other operations went to my father. We've been in a Cold War for 20 years. David trying to prove he's more than his father's puppet. Me trying to prove I'm more than my father's weapon. And I was ammunition. You were an opportunity. There's a difference. He studied her. You're angry. I'm calculating whether saving your life was worth this. June Seo smiled. That's the Ilera I trained. The one who thinks strategically instead of emotionally. He flicked ash into the night. You want the truth? Yes, I needed someone brilliant enough to crack David's operation. But I could have found a hacker. I could have paid someone. What I couldn't manufacture was you. He turned to face her fully. Someone hungry enough to burn it all down. Someone with nothing to lose and everything to prove. Someone who wouldn't stop until she'd consumed everything that tried to consume her. Pretty speech. It's the truth. You want to walk away? Go. Take your board seat. Build your legitimate life. I won't stop you. His eyes glittered in the darkness. But we both know you won't. Because you tasted it tonight. Power. Real power. And now you know that I like it. Ilera finished. That you're good at it. June Seo corrected. There's a difference. A car pulled up. Black. Expensive. Anonymous. Minji in the driver's seat. Last chance. June Seo said. Get in this car. And you're all the way in. The board seat is just the beginning. I have plans for us. For what we could build together. An empire where brilliance matters more than bloodlines. Where monsters like us don't have to pretend to be human. Ilera thought about the coffee. The laughter. The 3 years of being invisible. She thought about tonight. The fear in their eyes. The power in her silence. She reached for the car door. Then froze. Across the street, partially hidden in shadow, stood a figure. Watching. When Ilera's eyes found him, he lifted his phone. The screen glowed in the darkness. On it, a photo of her and June Seo taken tonight. And a message in English. The Americans send their regards. Seoul was just the beginning. The figure vanished into the crowd before Ilera could react. June Seo, she said quietly. We have a problem. He followed her gaze, body tensing. When he turned back, his expression was grim. Get in the car. Now. What was that? Who? The reason I was bleeding in that alley when you found me. June Seo pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. I told you the Park family war was complicated. I didn't mention we'd attracted international attention. Meaning someone bigger than David wants us dead. And they just made their first move. Ilera slid into the car. Minji gunned the engine. As Seoul blurred past the windows, June Seo made a series of calls in languages Ilera didn't speak, his voice progressively harder, colder. Finally, he hung up, looked at her. Remember when I said you could walk away? Yes. That option just expired. You're in this now. All the way in. What does that mean? June Seo's smile was sharp enough to cut. It means welcome to the real game, Ilera. Seoul was just the tutorial. And if I refuse, then we're both dead by morning. He leaned back, impossibly calm. Still thinks saving my life was a mistake. Ilera looked out at Seoul. Her city. The place that had tried to break her. She thought about the question. Then pulled out her laptop. Tell me everything. And I mean everything. Who they are, what they want, and how we make them regret underestimating us. June Seo laughed, genuine, surprised, delighted. Now you're speaking my language. The car disappeared into Seoul's neon labyrinth, carrying 2 monsters into a war they hadn't started. But they sure as hell were going to finish. The safe house was in Gangnam, hidden behind the facade of a luxury meditation center. Ironic, Ilera thought, given the amount of violence being planned within its walls. June Seo's team assembled in the main room. 12 people who looked like fashion models, but moved like soldiers. Minji was there, along with Taesung, Madam Chun, and others whose names Ilera was only beginning to learn. Status. Junesio commanded, shedding his jacket, the veneer of civility falling away like a mask. A man with silver-streaked hair. Introduced only as H. Pulled up surveillance footage. The Americans are Covenant operatives. Private military contractors turned organized crime syndicate. They've been expanding into Asian markets for 3 years. Your disruption of their money flows last month put you on their radar. Ilera interrupted. I thought I was just bait for David. Junesio had the grace to look slightly sheepish. David was the excuse. The real target was always Covenant. They've been using Park Corporation's systems to move money, just like David was. I needed someone who could trace their entire network without them knowing. Someone invisible. Someone brilliant. Someone disposable, Ilera said coldly. Someone unexpected, Junesio corrected. They expected me to come at them with violence. Instead, I gave them a ghost who could dismantle their empire from the inside. He crossed to her. You're not disposable, Ilera. You're the most valuable piece on the board. Why do you think I spent 7 days making sure you could survive this world? Pretty words. Again. Provable facts. He nodded to H, who pulled up more files. While you were learning to walk in heels and read body language, I was teaching you their systems. Every file I showed you about Choi and Yuna, practice runs, building your pattern recognition. By day 6, you were tracking money flows without realizing I'd trained you to hunt financial crime. Ilera's hands curled into fists. You manipulated me. I weaponized you, Junesio said flatly. There's a difference. And now you have a choice. Help us dismantle Covenant's Korean operation, or they'll kill you to send me a message. There is no neutral ground. There is no walking away. The room fell silent. Ilera pulled out a chair, sat down at the central computer terminal. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, muscle memory from years of coding taking over. She pulled up the files Junesio had shown her, cross-referenced them with public corporate records, started building connections. Ilera! Shut up. I'm working. 20 minutes later, she had it. The pattern. Covenant wasn't just using Park Corporation. They'd infiltrated 17 companies across Seoul, creating a web of legitimate businesses hiding streams of illegal money. They're not just laundering, Ilera said, standing. They're building infrastructure, preparing for something bigger. H leaned forward. Explain. Look at the purchases. Commercial real estate, shipping companies, tech firms specializing in facial recognition. They're not here to make money. They're here to control Seoul. She turned to Junesio. What aren't you telling me? Why Seoul? Why now? Junesio exchanged glances with H. Some silent conversation Ilera couldn't read. Korea's about to host the Asian Economic Summit. H said finally. 40 heads of state. Trillions of dollars in trade agreements. If Covenant controls the infrastructure, the buildings, the security systems, the transportation. They control the leverage. Ilera finished. They can blackmail, extort, or assassinate anyone they want. Jesus Christ. Now you understand, Junesio said quietly. This isn't about me, or you, or even David. This is about stopping someone from turning Seoul into their personal puppet show. Ilera sat down hard. This was insane. 7 days ago, she'd been scrubbing floors. Now she was in the middle of an international criminal conspiracy that could destabilize half of Asia. Why me? She whispered. Really? Why me? Junesio knelt in front of her, forcing eye contact. Because Covenant has government connections. Police. Military. Intelligence agencies. Anyone I hire officially could be compromised. But you didn't exist to them. A janitor, a nobody, you could move through their systems like a ghost. And by the time they realized what you were, it would be too late. And if I died, if they'd found me first, I would have burned soul to find you. Junasio said, simply. I told you. You're valuable. Valuable, not valued. Something flickered across his face. Almost pain. That's for you to decide. After we survive this. Ilara stood, walked to the window. Outside, Sol was waking up, sunrise painting the city gold and pink. Somewhere out there, people were living normal lives. Going to coffee shops. Complaining about their bosses. Free. She'd never have that again. But then, she'd never really had it before either. What's the play? She asked, turning back. Junasio smiled. Proud. We use what you learned. Covenant thinks they're invisible, that their financial architecture is untraceable. You prove them wrong. We expose every company they've infiltrated, every politician they've bought, every system they've compromised. We do it publicly, catastrophically, and we do it before the summit in 6 weeks. That's impossible. So was tonight, Minji said. But you walked into a room of people who tortured you and made them beg. Impossible is relative. Ilara looked around the room. These people, assassins, fixers, criminals by any legal definition, were waiting for her decision. Her. The girl who'd been invisible. If we do this, Ilara said slowly, I want real answers. No more manipulation. No more need to know bullshit. I want full transparency. Agreed, Junasio said. And after, if we survive, then you decide. Stay and build this empire with me. Or walk away with enough money and protection to disappear anywhere in the world. Your choice. But it has to be your choice. Ilara thought about Yuna's face tonight. The fear, the recognition, the delicious, terrible moment when the beast finally bit back. She thought about the power thrumming through her veins. The way silence had become her weapon. The way intelligence felt better than any beauty ever could. She thought about who she'd been 7 days ago. And who she'd become. I have conditions, she said. Name them. First, I want equity. Real ownership in whatever we're building. Not a salary. Partnership. Junasio nodded. Done. Second, we don't just take down Covenant. We dismantle the entire system that let David and people like him thrive. No more corporate bullies destroying lives for profit. We rebuild it better. Ambitious. I like it. Third, Ilara crossed to stand directly in front of Junasio. You tell me the truth. Right now. Did you know where I'd be that night? In that alley. The room held its breath. Junasio held her gaze. Yes. Did you get shot on purpose? The bullet was real. The location was chosen. He didn't flinch. I needed someone desperate enough to save a dying stranger. Someone the world had broken enough that they'd burn it down for a chance at revenge. And I needed to know if you were brave enough to act when it mattered. So everything after that moment was real. Junasio interrupted. The training, the transformation, the way you exceeded every expectation I had. That was all you, Ilara. I gave you matches. You chose to burn down the house. Ilara should have been furious. Should have walked away. Should have. But she'd known, hadn't she? Deep down. Known it was too convenient. Too perfect. And she'd chosen it anyway. If you ever lie to me again, she said quietly, I'll destroy you the same way I destroyed them tonight. Are we clear? Crystal. She extended her hand. Then let's build an empire. Junasio took it, his grip firm, his smile genuine. Welcome to the real game. As the team erupted into motion. pulling up files, making calls, planning their war. Ilera returned to the terminal. Her reflection stared back from the dark screen. She barely recognized herself. 7 days ago, she'd been the beast of the 42nd floor. Broken. Invisible. Prey. Now she was something else entirely. The door burst open. One of Junesio's scouts, breathless. "Sir, Covenant just moved. They've accelerated their timeline. The summit isn't in 6 weeks. When?" Junesio demanded. 2 weeks. And they've issued a kill order. Highest priority. "For me?" Junesio asked. "No, sir." The scout looked at Ilera. "For her. They know what she can do now. The order is to eliminate her before she exposes their entire operation." The room fell silent. Ilera felt it again. That electricity. That power. The same feeling from tonight when she'd made them fear her. She smiled. "Good," she said, turning back to her computer. "Let them come. I've spent 3 years being hunted by monsters who smile in daylight. At least these ones are honest about what they are." She pulled up Covenant's financial networks, her fingers already working magic across the keyboard. 2 weeks, she murmured. "That's 1 week longer than it took to transform me. Plenty of time to burn their world down." Junesio moved to stand behind her, watching her work with something like awe. "You're sure about this? Once you start, there's no going back. They will try to kill you. Multiple times." Ilera thought about the coffee, the laughter, the video that had haunted her. Then she thought about tonight, the fear in their eyes, the power in her silence. "I stopped being able to go back the moment I saved you," she said. "So let's go forward. Let's show them what happens when you awaken the wrong monster." Outside, Seoul blazed with morning light. Inside, Ilera began to type. And somewhere in the shadows, Covenant operatives received an alert. Their financial systems were being penetrated by someone they couldn't trace. The beast had learned to do more than bite. She'd learned to hunt. Or perhaps just the beginning. Ilera's transformation from victim to predator was complete. But in Junesio's world, survival meant constant evolution. The battle with Covenant would test everything she'd learned, push her further than she'd ever imagined possible. Some monsters are born, some are made, and some are forged in the fires of their own destruction, emerging as something the world has never seen before. Ilera had been broken, then rebuilt. Now she would break everything that had tried to break her. And Seoul would never be the same. Subscribe now so you don't miss what happens when Ilera faces assassins who make her old bullies look like amateurs. Junesio's secrets unravel in ways that could destroy everything they've built. The Asian Economic Summit becomes a battlefield, and Ilera is the weapon. She discovers that becoming unbreakable means breaking everything she thought she knew. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Smash that like button if you believe the best revenge is becoming the thing they should have feared all along. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that being broken isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something dangerous.